Okay, we're back. Hmm. Okay, what did you do? We can walk through it. Did you minimize OBS or did you leave it open and then just open everything else in the background? Hmm. Well, screen share through Zoom. Just share through Zoom and don't screen share through OBS. Hmm. Oh, you got a fan. Oh, I was gonna say, is that your mom? Okay. Which to me, corrupt and Democrat is like synonymous. Like that's uh, yeah, I remember that. And I also remember by far the one senator who was well loved, even though like he had higher like than he had people in his state. The senator from Vermont happened to be the most liked senator in the nation, like the only one that was trusted. But for some reason, he couldn't win. Like for some reason, he just nobody came to vote for him in the primaries or some horse shit like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was gonna say because in reality, no, they didn't. He was losing this one. He came because he came because I my problem is I deal in reality and like what actually happens. So, and what actually happened was he came in fifth in the first three contests. The only reason that he won South Carolina is because of Jim Clyburn and the fact that South Carolina is already a Republican state. We knew that so in real life, in a normal situation, he would have won South Carolina. Bernie came in a close second, and then he would have gotten smoked and just had to drop out after South Carolina because he didn't have the infrastructure, he didn't have the funding, he didn't have the votes. The only reason he ended up becoming the candidate is there are two reasons. One, because of Barack Obama, and two, because of electoral fraud. Because even with the consolidation and Barack Obama pulling the strings behind the scenes, even still, he would have lost. Bernie was a juggernaut. Bernie was unstoppable. They still had to cheat. If you look at the exit polls, Super Tuesday was split and it nudged slightly in Bernie's favor. Since Bernie had all the delegates before, that was enough. That would have knocked Biden completely out of the water, and Bernie would have been the candidate if you'd gone by the real numbers. But because of South Carolina and because they had the media on their side, they just flipped the numbers, lied to us, and acted like we weren't going to notice that there's fucking voter fraud. We have challenged other countries. We have done regime changes in other countries for less.
Exactly. Like, you literally see, it's funny because now the right wing, they are outflanking liberals now in terms of skepticism towards the government. Like, they don't trust our election system. Like, and now I'm like, hey, welcome to the party, welcome to the party, man, because we've been here, we've been questioning the election results. So
it's definitely easier to convert a rank and file conservative or even a MAGA than it is a liberal, because liberals still believe in the illusion. They still believe in the theater, and increasingly conservatives don't. I mean, on my right wing Twitter, the one of the most, if not the most common sentiment is that the only person in government worth trusting, according to the right wingers, is Donald Trump. Nobody else in government is to be trusted. So they're it's really interesting. This feeds into the whole liberal horseshoe theory thing, but I'm gonna say it anyway. A lot of right wingers have really similar criticisms to leftists. The problem is they use their criticisms to cloak their bigotry, and they blame the wrong groups. Instead of blaming the 1% or the oligarchy or the ruling class, whatever you want to call them, they blame people who are disadvantaged, and then they're super racist or xenophobic or whatever.
But you know what? I don't blame those people for that, because that's what they were taught. That's the narrative they were raised under. The reason why you don't have nice things is because other people come and take it from you.
You're right. It's not their fault. And so that's why, like, I'm not willing to write off the 80 million people who voted for Trump just because they voted for Trump again. Again, in his second term. I think it's our job to, educate and help them see, yes, your criticism is right. Here's who's actually to blame, and help drag them to the right conclusions. And that's part of and parcel of this whole the pack I'm forming to run progressives and leftists and whatever you want to call yourself if you have the right policy under the right wing party, the righter wing party, the Republican Party, because I think we can convert the rank and file conservatives a lot easier and get a consensus that actually helps people if we run the right kind of candidate that way. I don't know. Sorry,
I agree. I agree with you, because Erica was saying the same thing when she was on.
Right.
It's easier to get people on the right than it is people on the so-called left, but I mean like liberals, because liberals don't want to see the problems, because then they'll feel an obligation to do something about it, and they don't feel like doing anything about it, because as long as things are working for them, things are fine. Get out of my face with that radical bullshit. That's it. They just want to go back to brunch.
I talk about this all the time.
They just want to go back to yoga. Stop talking about, like, I don't want to see the kids in cages anymore. I want to be able to enjoy my lunch. Put Joe Biden in office so that I can go back to brunch, because I can be, and then this is obviously from a liberal standpoint, like I can rest easy knowing that Joe Biden didn't put the kids in cages. Except Joe Biden literally did put the kids in cages. It was his legislation that created the situation for kids to be put in the cages in the first place, and the kids are put in cages under the Obama administration.
They will argue that Obama wasn't as brutal, and therefore it was A-okay.
Oh, okay. So, see, that brings up another issue that I have. I don't want to change the color of my oppressors or the gender of my oppressors. I want to stop being oppressed. And I feel like the bridge between left and right is both leftists, not liberals, but leftists, and Republicans, we can both see where we can see the cracks in the system. The only difference is, once, like you said, we have fundamental differences on how we think those cracks should be fixed. But at least Republicans can see the same thing we're seeing. Liberals put on their glasses of, I don't see it, I don't want to see it, leave me alone.
Exactly.
And that makes them entirely insufferable, because like with Alcoholics Anonymous, first step is admitting you have a problem.
It's funny because I literally made this point countless times, and people don't believe me when I say it. Well, I mean, people that still have sympathy for the Democratic Party. I tell people I have an easier time talking to right wingers than I do the liberal class, like the Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg supporter, the Amy Klobuchar supporter. I struggle talking to those people. When I was canvassing, those people would shut the door on my face. Those people shut the door on my face. I literally talked to conservatives, and I told a story earlier this week how I flipped a conservative and got them to like Bernie Sanders, because like whenever they hear me and I say, I'm like, they're like, yeah, how you brainwashed by the Democratic Party? I'm like, no, I'm not. Fuck the Democratic Party. Fuck Barack Obama. Bro, when I say that, they're like, what? Like, I swear, I literally draw them in when I say that all the time. And so they actually wanted to hear me out. And on the flip side, like the older white liberal, the Joe Biden supporter, the Amy Klobuchar supporter, they literally went out and hear me. Like, I remember I'll walk to the door in my Bernie gear. They're like, nope, not interested. And they were like, shut the door. And that's like the best case scenario. Sometimes they was like openly rude to me. Like, how dare you, you black socialist, trying to talk to me? Who do you think you like? There was the hardest people for me to talk to. And Jackie, you brought this up a few weeks ago, where one of the reasons that, like, if you actually look at the demographics in South Carolina, it wasn't like an overwhelming pouring of African American voters that made Joe Biden win by a large margin. It was the white suburbanites that usually not the pulse of the Democratic Party in that area that came out overwhelming for Joe Biden. Correct, right? Because that was actually something that a lot of people looked at post-mortem. Like, yo, there's a lot of that white liberal class that came out for Biden in South Carolina. And that's why, even though Bernie Sanders lost the black vote in South Carolina by a significant margin, he still won the youth black vote. There was that disconnect there. The point being...
I see the disconnect I constantly hear, and because it was a media narrative. That's let's face it, Bernie Sanders was defeated in the media long before the election, long before a single vote was cast. They were like, it can't be him, no matter what, it can't be him. Now, at some point, that actually backfired on them because they leaned in so hard to not Bernie that some people were like, fuck y'all, I'm just going to vote for him instead. But in the media, they were like, in the media narrative was that Bernie can't get black people, which was entirely horseshit. Right. If you actually looked at the numbers, Bernie got all demographics, but it was on age lines. He got the next generation, he got the current and the next generation, and Biden only took the top generation. And if Biden ends up winning the presidency, the only way he'll do it is because he managed to hold on to that old generation. Why was Biden able to get the old generation? Because things are okay for them. And the old generation just wants to go back to normal. And Biden literally ran on, I'm not Trump, and I want to restore back to the Obama days. And why did people believe that he could do that? Well, for one issue that a lot of people, a thing that people rallied around him behind, which I knew, like, us bringing it up was a losing thing. Anytime we brought up the fact that Biden has cognitive decline, you're going to immediately turn off the boomers because they are in that age range and they don't want to think of themselves. But it's true. Like, nobody wants to think like that could be me. So if you bring up like, hey, he has cognitive decline, they're terrified of that. They're not listening to you anymore because you just scared them into thinking, oh shit, if it happens to the vice president, it could happen to me.
They almost make him relatable by doing that.
Be reminded of
since you brought that up. Now that you bring it up, that he sounds relatable when they do that.
Exactly.
They're like, he's just like me.
It endears him in their minds because they're like, oh shit, it could happen to me. And that's why, by the way, he keeps going on and on about his dead son, because it's his way of being relatable. And the media laps it up. They're like, oh, see, don't you want to be like this guy? Don't you want to vote for this guy who's relatable? It's that Bush thing of like voting for the guy you'd rather have a beer with than the guy who could actually lead the country.
Yeah, they love that shit. they love that fake politics. And they still like people get mad at me when I bring up shit that is like factually true. I tell people, they was like, well, when Joe Biden gets in office, you're gonna have a lot of these people that were pushed left by Trump and by these issues that will continue to put pressure by Joe Biden. That did not happen. That's a joke, because Sunrise Movement came out with a video the other day where they was literally said it in a very polite way. How they came out and said, we're the reason why you won. We organized. We did all this work for you on the grassroots movement. But we need you to deliver on your climate change plans. I mean, the actual subject matter of the video was very tame. Very, very tame. But then, like, the liberal class lashed out at Sunrise Movement. And it was like a gross cesspool of neoliberal comments. There have been a cesspool of comments against AOC and the squad since Biden won. And there have been an open attack on the progressive movement ever since Biden got in office. So once again, it kind of sucks that you gotta be vindicated. Yeah, it kind of sucks.
That's why I didn't want Biden to win. I like, even as a progressive, like mainly as a progressive, because I saw this coming. I was like, Biden essentially ran on, because as soon as the fix was in, and he cheated and took Super Tuesday, and then the second like the mini Super Tuesday, I was like, he is going to try, he's going to do everything he can to kill the progressive movement. And I knew that because what was the very first email that he sent out after that? I am not a socialist.
Yep.
He was attacking Bernie straight on. And the very first email he sent out, in all of his rhetoric, he was like, I am the Democratic Party. He was letting us know, he was talking directly to us. Hey, you guys lost, fuck you. The machine is here. There's nothing you can do about it. Neoliberals are the Democratic Party. Go fuck off. Meanwhile, you have to vote for me, because what are you going to do? Vote for Trump?
And
that's why I wanted Trump to win.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I was like, yeah, I didn't vote for Trump, but I still wanted Biden to lose. Because I knew that Biden was the death of the progressive movement. He is going to do everything he can to kill the progressive movement. I saw that coming. And that's why, like, remember Pat and I had that argument, because Pat was like, oh, I don't think it's going to be that bad. And I was like, it's going to be much worse. It's going to be much worse, because this entire movement is going to be to murder the progressive movement. And we knew that was performative bullshit just to get the Warren Dems to join on and to try to push some progressives to vote for him when he did the whole, like, committee thing. What the fuck is this committee going to do? He's already said if Medicare for All comes across his desk, he would veto it. He's already said that he doesn't give a shit about the environment. Like, push that shit to 2050.
And people got mad at us for saying that this task force is bullshit. And you see, he literally lined up his cabinet with corporate and fossil fuel oligarchs. He already doing it.
Which, how is anybody surprised? We knew that he was going to do that.
Not only that, like you said, he literally gave us hints of how he's going to govern, how he's going to move forward. He literally did it early on. He showed his hand, like, immediately after he won the primary, when he got Larry Summers and Rahm Emanuel involved. I'm like, okay, so you just showed your cards literally the first few weeks. Are you kidding me? And then you have people like pledging your vote. And I said the same thing that we laid this out to them. I'm like, bro, they're gonna use this victory to throw the progressive movement on the bus, no matter what happens. Because Jim Clyburn, he said on the lead up of South Carolina, he said the reason why we cannot support Bernie Sanders is because Bernie Sanders will hurt Democrats down ballot. Now what happened? Joe Biden was the nominee, and Democrats lost House seats, and they didn't pick up the Senate. So,
meanwhile, every single progressive that supported Medicare for All was either elected or reelected.
Yep.
Every single one. Remember, if you listen to mainstream media, which is total horseshit, which is another thing that we have in common with Republicans, we can see that the media has a clear bias. If you listen to them, they would be like, oh, the squad's not going to get reelected. The squad won by a landslide.
Yeah. Everyone was saying that. The horse whisperer, like he's the one that was talking shit on the Sunrise Movement. He literally was like, "Yo, shit to leave. He's gonna lose. She gonna lose her seat." Like they were so out of touch with the pulse of the party.
Nietzsche, we just got a question from Twitch. Nietzsche just said, "Did we see Joe asking for money today for the transition team?"
Why anyone who donate money to Joe Biden, despite the fact that he got what 100+ billionaire donors?
I was gonna say, get the money from your billionaires. Like, we don't need our money.
He's got over 100 billionaire donors. He's gotten more money before the election from Wall Street and real estate industries, Wall Street, industries, than Trump did. He got almost as much, if not more, in fossil fuel money as well. Like, he doesn't need grassroots support. Him asking for it is just another slap in the face. But my issue with Sunrise Movement is that they have stocks in BP oil.
Yeah, I heard like a lot of stuff about that. Like a lot of they got a few conflicts of interest.
They do.
But once again, I joined.
Sunrise Movement has stocks in BP.
Yep, they were gifted.
That's like PETA having stocks in Petridge Farms. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I need to read into that.
As far as I know, they still hold them.
Why did they ever have them? That's literally a conflict of interest.
They were a donation.
They were probably like, fuck it, we take the money, but we fight against you. I don't know.
Well, no, because they're a movement that's based on principle. So on principle, what you do is exactly what Bernie did. When he got a donation from a billionaire's wife, he politely returned the check and said, "No, thank you. I'm grassroots."
Yep, that's how you don't get bought.
That's what you do. You turn it and you return it, and you say, "You know what? Thanks, but I'm literally like the whole organization's entire purpose is to take you down. I don't want your money."
That posed the question that once again people got mad at me for posing. If at the end of the day, you always revert to that we must vote for the Democrat, whether it be 2020, 2022, 2024. It doesn't matter what you really say in between then, right? And if you always advocate for voting for Democrats, you're nothing but a Democratic operative, right? I'm not saying that it's inherently a bad thing. I'll argue that's not the right path to take. But people got mad at me for saying that. I was like, how is that wrong though? Because if you consistently, no matter what happened during 2 years or 4 year period, you always say we gotta vote for Democrat. What's the difference at the end of the day between you and someone who actually is a Democratic operative? You just to the left of the average Democratic operative. So when I heard stuff like that about the Sunrise Movement, so I was like, all right, that's something I gotta be aware of. They are a left-wing Democratic operative group, and people, when I say that, people are like, "What did you just say?" I'm like, dude, you don't even have to take that as a negative connotation if you don't want. But if they endorse voting for Democrat, like they did voting for the fracker and Joe Biden, what's the difference? I want to hear the difference between someone who rah Democrats or someone who's just to the left of them who wanted to push Biden and say, hey, we got to vote for the Democrat no matter what. There's not much of a difference, right? Even though people will say that's a controversial take, but it's not to me.
It's, to me, like, okay, during the election, I paid attention to the so-called progressives who had a stance, like people like Sunrise Movement, people like Greta Thunberg, who have a stance of environmental protections, or a stance on gay rights, or a stance on defund the police or abolish the police, who had a stance, a principled stance, but turned around and told you to vote for Joe Biden. Because if you know anything about Joe Biden, you would know that he is essentially the same as Donald Trump, and on some of these issues, he's actually worse. Yep. As far as the police and everything, they're about even, honestly, because Trump has no problem leaning into the blue wall. Biden is the one who secured the blue wall. He added layers of it. He made it even bigger and made it even thicker. So they're about the same. But then in some instances, like a lot of people think that I'm like just blowing shit. But no, I actually, again, I live in reality. I pay attention to what he said.
Yeah.
Joe Biden is, on principle, he is a Republican. He is not pro-life. Or, sorry, he's not pro-choice. He's pro-life. He said that many times. He has always voted pro-life. The Democratic platform is pro-choice, but he is pro-life.
People got.
He was against gay marriage.
It's crazy
in
how
the last debates he said it. Not the last debates, but the debates he did with Sarah Palin. He was like, "I don't want gay marriage. We'll give up civil unions."
Mm-hmm.
He was 100% against.
He like we agree
marriage.
on we on the same page on this issue, and there was a laugh.
Yeah.
Like because apparently it's funny to disenfranchise an entire group of people now. Back in 2008, that's not even that long ago.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, and he's that was what, like 12 years ago. Yeah, and he was like, "Oh, okay, then we both agree. Like nobody wants to give gays the right to marry."
People
what? Like he is a Republican. If you look at his actual rhetoric, like when he was in the Senate when Roe v. Wade was passed for in the Supreme Court, and his comments were, "I don't agree with it. I don't agree that a woman has a right to choose."
And
he's kept that stance right up until last year. The only reason he changed is because they told him, you have to change. And I don't really think he did change. I think he just changed the rhetoric around it because they said, look, no person can win the Democratic Party without this. You have to follow the platform, at least by word only. And I think that's the only reason why he changed that stance. All other, if you go issue by issue, most things he is actually a Republican. He does not follow the Democratic platform at all. The only reason I can see that he even has the D by his name is that when he wanted to run for senator, the area he was running for senator in is a Democratic district, and the only way he would win is if he ran as a Democrat.
Yep.
That's the only reason I think he was a Democrat. I don't think he actually has the principles of a Democrat because he literally never has, by his own word. I'm just taking him at his word for it, and I'm looking at how he voted when he was a senator.
And people got mad at us for laying out these facts. Like, these are facts. Like, these not, like, we're not coming up with conspiracies like, oh, this is what Biden would do in this situation. No, we literally seen what he would do.
47 years of his record. We can tell you. All you have to do is read it. Just read it. It's right there. 47 years. This guy is not a newbie. He's been in the highest levels of government for longer than either of us have been alive. And how are people going to sit there and say, like, oh, that's a conspiracy? No, that's just a fact. Look it up.
And for some reason, the body count of Joe Biden don't matter as much the body count as any other standard Republican. Because this is what I've been saying. People talk about the crime bill. The crime bill...
The reason for...
Wait 1 second. Alright, wait, hold on. I can't hear you. Are you speaking, Jackie? I don't know if I lost you. Or if I can't hear you. Oh, jeez. Can y'all hear me? I just lost audio. Y'all hear you speaking. I just can't hear shit. What the fuck?
And the fact that you're going to do something else, well, that's just politics. And they're fine with that. And that's why they voted for him. They don't like the guy who's going to get up there and be rude and use crude language because they're like, oh my God, we're an embarrassment. America as a country is an embarrassment because Trump is president. No, America as a country is an embarrassment because we do stupid ass shit like elect a person who was a fucking television star for president to lead the country. Instead of actually demanding that they have qualifications. We vote against our own interest. That's why we're a laughingstock. It's not because of Trump. Trump is just the mirror. And people didn't want to look in the mirror anymore. They don't want to realize that this is a nation of narcissists. That's why he won.
You notice that people were dead silent talking about stuff like ICE now ever since Joe Biden got in office. Ever since he won his election, right? Like, they don't really care about these issues. And I mentioned before, like, people will bring up the crime bill because that's the obvious bill to talk about when it comes to Joe Biden's racism. But a bill that is not talked about enough when it comes to not only talking about his racism, but the devastation that he causes in terms of his career. is his bankruptcy bill. The bankruptcy, and not only that, his work in the 2008 financial crisis. Because if you combine those two things, because if you look at the bankruptcy bill, and you look at the fact that he's the reason why we had the student debt crisis in the first place, the reason why you have black families and low income families struggling with medical debt, that's because of the bankruptcy bill. And you look at 2008 financial crisis, when black wealth tanked and when the income inequality skyrocketed, that was back when Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden was working together because Barack Obama put Joe Biden in charge of negotiating with Mitch McConnell. And Joe Biden was so bad at negotiating with Mitch McConnell that there was even blue dog Democrats, centrist Democrats like Steny Hoyer and them. They was like, what the hell are you doing? You were just giving them everything they want because he gave them like $20 billion more in additional aid for corporate bailouts that Mitch McConnell didn't even ask for. I went back and looked at the fine print. Like, people don't know this shit, and then people get mad at me when I bring this up. Like, bro, so what do you think is gonna happen when you have Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden responsible for this economic collapse? Because what Joe Biden is known for and what he advocated for his entire career, and when he did it as vice president, so it's not like I'm talking about ancient history. This is what he did as vice president. He implemented austerity. He literally has this. He like, all right, we got to reduce the deficit, and he's a good politician. Like, back when his brain used to work. I don't know how it is now. He got consulting follows, but this is why Joe Biden is dangerous. Because he would say shit like this. He would say
the problem is, like, you look at it as if he's a Democrat, and you say, "What are you?" Like Steny Hoyer said, "Like, what are you doing? Like, we have the numbers. We can defeat Mitch McConnell. Why are you just giving him shit?" Because Joe Biden is a Republican. He's siding with the Republicans. So that's why, by the way, he runs on, what does he say? I can not bridge the gap, but he can compromise with Republicans. Yeah, he can get things done. The reason why is because he goes to the Republican side.
That's scary.
That's the part he doesn't say. Also,
he agrees
the other
with
part
them.
that he has mentioned, because I think a reporter asked him this one time. They said, okay, if the reason, because the whole reason, Barack Obama was like, oh, I couldn't pass anything better as far as healthcare because, that Mitch McConnell, he blocked everything.
So they were working with him.
Right. Like, yep. But Obama's whole reasoning, and by the way, neolibs entirely believe this, and you cannot convince a boomer otherwise. They're like, well, Obama tried, but McConnell blocked everything. That's honestly what they believe. Like, McConnell was not letting him do anything, but Obama was he was fighting for us. But then, just the Senate, they stopped everything. And when a reporter asked Biden, since you guys were, you and Obama were in office for 8 years, and you guys didn't do anything, you guys didn't pass anything aside from the ACA, what makes you think that you're going to get that now when back then when you started, you had the House and the Senate, then you lost the Senate, and now the Senate has even more of a majority? Like, what makes you think that you're going to
give everything
get anything done? And his answer was essentially like dog whistle racism, like basically like, oh, I'm white. Like they wouldn't, like, that's because it was Obama. He's a black guy, but they'll do it for me. The actual truth is he's a Republican, so he's going to do what they want. So, of course, they're going to do what he wants. That's the perfect
way to put it. Because, like, I don't even want to say he's giving up the farm or he's giving up anything in negotiation because he agrees with them. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, people have to realize he's not coming at it from the left.
Yeah.
He's actually coming at it from the right. Because, like, and he has a whole career of that, because when he worked with segregationists, he was doing it for them. He was on their side.
And I was looking at the rhetoric that he was using in 2008, and he is, back in the day, like I said, once again, now his brain is broken, but back in 2008, 2007, there's a reason why Joe Biden made his name in politics, because when he presented his argument, he presented it in such a sly way. He said, well, we got to make sure we allocate these funds to prevent these funds from going to the wrong hands and to the crooks. And what he meant by this, he said we got to make sure we prevent government waste or make sure it don't fall into the wrong hands. He was saying that as code for corporate bailouts and giving Mitch McConnell for more money. So what he was saying is we can't let this money fall into the wrong hands, aka the working class, aka the people that lost their homes. Because when he said, that's literally, if you look back in his speeches, that's literally how he framed the argument. And the liberal media class ate it up. They already eating up his rhetoric right now. So imagine what's going to happen on top of this COVID relief, where the media is already starting a propaganda push toward Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in terms of trying to make it seem like they're better than they are. So imagine when Joe Biden come out on his podium, he said, me and Mitch McConnell, we got a bipartisan solution, and we're going to make sure these funds go to the right hands, go to small business owners. But when they say small business owners, they actually mean DC consultants, like they did with the CARES Act. And with Nancy Pelosi and them, they took a paycheck for themselves while they let American people starve. And Joe Biden, he'd have framed it way back when he framed it in 2008. We gotta make sure there's no government waste. We gotta make sure it stays in the right hands. Like they use these talking points and they sound good when they speak it. They're not like Donald Trump. When Donald Trump is a visible moron. So when he says stuff, it don't sound believable. Like Donald Trump say some bullshit. Like, we're not gonna lock down. Everything will be okay. But then Joe Biden said, we're not gonna lock down. Everything will be okay. They said the same thing. They like Donald Trump like we're not gonna close the schools. Joe Biden like, yeah, we're not gonna close the schools. Bro, they saying the same thing.
The difference is in the delivery, though. Like I said, they a lot of the reason why Trump is so hated has nothing to do with his actual policy. It has everything to do with him being crude. Yep. And by the way, that's the same reason he's so loved by his base. The very thing, like I learned that when I was 21, I was a server. I'm still a server now. But I almost gave up serving because I was like making no money. But I was putting on a facade. I was fake. And one day I thought about it and I was like, there's my favorite bartender, Dan. And I was like, I love that guy. Why does he make so much money? Because he made a ton of money. Like even when it was dead, he made money. And I was like, how is that? And I realized because he was like the kind of person where he was like just authentic. He was love him or hate him. And he really was. You either loved him or you hated him. Very few people said he's all right. They were like, I love that guy. Or that guy's a dick. It was one or the other, you know? And I was like, that's why he makes money. Because if you love him, you give him money for his personality. If you don't love him, you just ask for somebody else. And I realized that's the same dynamic with Trump. If you want somebody, there are people who see him being crude. And they're like, oh, he's honest. Now, there's truth to what he says, but there's also bullshit to what he says. Because he, as an overt narcissist, he's going to say anything that's going to make him look good. So, yeah, he lies a lot. But there are times when he does tell the truth. When he's like, oh, yeah, we went there for the oil. And no other politician would say that. Other politicians are like, well, we have to liberate them. Good point. You know, politicians are like George W. Bush. George W. Bush like exceeded. Like, he was so good at this. They hate us because of freedom. They hate us because of our freedom.
What that even mean?
They're freedom hating, and that's why they hate us. And people buy into that shit.
I was a kid. I was like, what?
Sick of that. Yeah. The people who got sick of that want somebody like Trump who's just going to be like, oh no, we're going over there for oil. Because that is true.
And that's why and just like you said, that's why the neoliberal class hated Donald Trump. He gives up the game.
Because he's far too crude, and they want civility. Anytime somebody monitors your civility, they don't give a shit about what you're saying. It's all about how you're saying it.
Yep. And I made that point before as well, because I literally was saying that Trump being an idiot, it actually hurts U.S. imperialism.
I know that you're back in the
Hold on, sorry.
No, it's all good, bro. So we look at Trump's record, and you look at all these failed coup attempts. That's because he's deeply incompetent. And and I'm like, dude, that's actually a great thing that he actually says what everyone thinking it out loud instead of hiding it, like the way Barack Obama and them doing it, the way they did back in the day. So I laid it out to my brother, and this is how I got him. Because my brother is really open-minded. Now, I made a post today where he went from being completely apolitical. Now he, like, fucking burned it down. And he voted Green Party. It's crazy. First election he voted for in, like, 10 years. He voted Green. Because I explained it to him. I was like, bro, Trump, there's been studies that have been proven that billionaires and oligarchs, they have mental illness. In terms that they don't have the same, they can't feel empathy the same way everyone else do. They most of them are narcissists. So I always find it funny when they always go after Trump for being a narcissist. But That's just standard billionaire shit. Billionaires are narcissists. Studies prove this. It's been proven that billionaires lack empathy, and it's been proven. And if you look at like the sex pest, like there's a reason why Bill Clinton, Jeffrey Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, there's like it's countless. It's a culture of degeneracy at the top of the billionaire class. 'Cause they got no one policing them. There have been countless stories of the fraternity group, the rich people. They do horrible stuff. I don't want to get. I'm not gonna get into all that. But my point is, the billionaire class, with the white collar crime they do, with the sex trafficking they do, because sex trafficking is a giant criminal enterprise that's almost as lucrative as the drug trade. About the top three, it's up there with them, and that's funded mostly by the ruling class and the oligarchy. When you hear about how there was literally stories when the Panama Papers came out, and there was another leak that came out this summer that was going after Deutsche Bank and a lot of other oligarchs, where they was financing and they was doing business with mobsters, like with the cartels and terrorists. I'm trying to remember the name of the leak. It came out this summer, but it pretty much, it literally, like a lot of these banks and oligarchs got busted doing business with terrorists, helping them hide their money, and obviously the media didn't report on it. But I need to do another comprehensive dive into that, so I can get names. But very influential people was implicated in that, and Deutsche Bank is the one that comes to my mind because they was like the biggest ones who were implicated. But my point is,
well, yeah, they were in the Maxwell and Epstein files.
Yeah,
like,
so they did everything.
But have you heard of the I don't know whether it's a conspiracy theory or it's just like somebody just pointed it out, because I haven't bothered to like look into it, but it actually, to me, on face value, it makes sense. Again, I haven't looked into it, but like the theory that Maxwell and Epstein were, well, not necessarily Maxwell was just a friend of his, but Epstein was in bed with like a part of the CIA. And the reason he had those parties was to trap people so that he could control them. So anybody at those parties was like under his. So it wasn't like, not that he didn't partake, but it's like that trope. Like even Family Guy does it, where like a politician's not acting right, so you invite him to a party and then like kill the hooker while they're asleep, take pictures, and be like, okay, you're mine now.
Yeah, people know, and that's, people raise questions, and the reason why. If you want to call that a conspiracy theory, the reason why that conspiracy theories like that even exist is people ask questions like, how the hell did Jeffrey Epstein get the kind of money he has? Like, there was people that literally did dive into his financial record. They're like, okay, he was an investor, but his profits are not making sense. like if you look at like how much money he actually got, and it didn't make sense how he was so well connected. Like, he should have been just another standard investor, but he knows Bill Clinton. Yep. He know all these people. Like, so. That reeks of CIA, right? So I
exactly.
like that.
The connections were too. He had his hand in everybody, left and right. It didn't matter. He had anybody who ever had any power was connected to him, and that is in every industry. From Weinstein to the Clintons to Trump, long before Trump decided to run for president. And
this is why celebs had this breakdown about Trump. Because the greater overall point that we was making is the reason why I never had Trump derangement syndrome, because I always understood that this ruling class, the billionaire class, they live in a culture of degeneracy, where Jeffrey Epstein got a lot of influence, where they're all pedophiles, where they are racist, or where they are greedy psychopaths. Like, that's the class, and studies prove this. So when I see Trump, I just see him as an extension of that class. And celebrities reach out and they overreact to Trump because they can't reach that same conclusion because they are part of that class I'm indicting. You know what I mean? So instead of them saying Trump is a byproduct of upper echelon society, they can't come to that conclusion because they're part of upper echelon society. And
that, like you said, the reason why they hate him so much is because he's a mirror, and they don't. Whenever you have no soul, you don't want to look in the mirror.
Yep.
You don't want to see the truth. And the truth is that the nation as a whole is Trump.
And the funny thing is, people understand that to their core too. Because whenever I bring that up, people immediately wake up. Because I'm like, and then people are like, yo, look at Trump about, like, bro, all the billionaires are bad. And then people are like, oh yeah, you're kind of right. I'm like, Trump is just the one who won. They just mad because Trump was better at the politics game than Hillary was. Because if you look at Hillary Clinton, she's a psychopath just like Trump. I know you got some strong feelings about that as well. Because if you look at the Clinton Foundation corruption, and you look at the strong evidence that Hillary Clinton covered up for Bill Clinton's sex crimes, and the list goes on and on in terms of Hillary Clinton's evilness, in terms of her warmongering, it's endless. So with people, I remember back in 2016, I'm like, I voted for Joe Stein, then I voted for Howard Hawkins this time around as well. Cause I'm like, bro, you're not convincing me these people are better than Donald Trump. You're not. That's a really hard ask for you to think you're gonna accomplish that. It's not gonna happen. So I see them as essentially the same thing. My brother immediately he came to that same conclusion because I think we get it from our dad. We naturally anti-authority. Like I didn't like teachers growing up. Like for real. Like I'm a victim of actually being. I had a great parent. Both my parents were great parents because they raised me without ever really laying a hand on me and without really shouting at me because they were really good at communicating. I'm lucky in that sense I had that. Because my dad, when he was beaten growing up by my grandfather. So he didn't want to lay a hand on me. That was his mindset. So they had this nice approach way of raising me. And then I would go to school and these teachers would talk to me in ways that my dad and my mom didn't talk to me. And I was like, bro, if my mom don't talk to me that way, there's no way I'm gonna let you talk to me that way. That's my anti-authority. I think that's where that came from. But also my dad, he had a lot of. That's a whole story for another day. But we always been anti-authority. I don't buy what they're selling. See, we got some people in the chat here.
Yeah, we have a question
from
chat.
Yeah. What was the question?
Which is goofy as shit.
I'm down.
Political strategy question. When should Trump arrest Biden, Harris to complete the coup most effectively? December 14th, January 20th, or some other time?
That's a funny question, but it also kind of exposes that this whole coup thing is a sham. It's a sham because...
Okay, so a real quick thing. Cloud Minded said the only people that might support a hard coup are the cops and military would step in to stop it. No reason to worry about that. If you go by the actual definition of a coup is military.
Yeah.
So the only way a coup would happen is if the military was backed by Trump.
I don't think that would work because the CIA and the military love Joe Biden. Like if it was Bernie Sanders, like bam, we'd be ready to go to war, I guess. But they're not gonna fucking destroy this country to stop Joe Biden for getting in charge. And then there's like heavy reports. I mean, I don't know how much you want to trust them because they lightly sourced. To be fair, but a lot of them saying that Trump pretty much know that this is over. He's just doing this so his base don't feel like he gave up. And he's doing it so also he can open his media empire, and he also have a way to run in 2024. So instead of him running in 2024 as a guy who lost to Joe Biden, he can run as a guy who was cheated by the establishment in the media system. So there is a very strong theory, and honestly, I lean more towards this theory that he's doing this just to set him up for 2024 and to set up the Trump media. And that's why he's going so hard against Fox News. But there are also people that think he really is trying to start this coup, which won't surprise me too because he's crazy. But I don't think even if he did try to start a coup, I don't think it would work. But I'm more of the team, of the train of thought that he's doing it just to set up his next move. Because him getting beat by a landslide to Joe Biden is embarrassing. Come on. It's fucking embarrassing.
He didn't get beaten in a landslide, though.
Like, if you look at how...
If he had gotten beaten in a landslide, it wouldn't be close enough for him to be able to sue for recount.
The thing is, even though he's suing for recount, the question that Jordan and Jen was asking at their press conference, even if you... Like I said, I didn't look at the numbers. This is when I was watching one of the Stats Coup videos. He was asking them, he's like, bro, even if you guys are correct on your recounts, you guys will still lose. So there's no path to victory. And that's why a lot of people in Trump team behind closed doors know that this is a stunt because their advisors are like, we don't know if there's actually a path to victory for us. Even if you had the recount go in their favor, like they will have to get millions and millions of votes. Like I said, I got to dive to the specific numbers, but that's why I think it's overall theory because I don't think they have a path there. And Biden won in the areas where he needed to win. So, like him winning Georgia and him doing like that's. He won by a comfortable margin where you can't even debate it. And like Bio the head said, he said it's all about fundraising, and it is. Cal actually covered on his show where they was actually still fundraising to fight the election fraud suit, and at the same time there was the rumors of them knowing that this wasn't going to pass. So they are literally scamming their own supporters, and that's Trump to the core.
But is it a scam though? Because like the next thing he said, Botted Ahead said, is Trump's email even says it.
Yep.
So again, the reason why people like him is because of the times when he is honest. Yep. Like, for example,
he was
when
honest.
he gives in his emails to his supporters, he's like, yo, this is just for fundraising, like, give me money. And people are like, you know what? I respect that. And then they give him money. That's what it's like. It. He lies, but he tells the truth enough. He tells the truth more than a standard politician does, and that's what people love about him. Mm-hmm. And people are willing to overlook the lies and to call it theater because of the few times that he does tell the truth, because when he does tell the truth, it's a scathing truth.
It's true that they're like, man, why you say that out loud? Why you say that out loud?
Whereas Joe Biden just does nothing but lie, and everybody's like, oh, that sounds nicer. I'm going to go with that.
I wager most people don't read past the second line of that email. Yo, I don't get it, man. Like actually, they probably like. I wonder how true that is though, because there was just a poll that came out I saw on Twitter that showed that literally vast majority of the American people don't believe that Trump lost his election. So I think they're just a very small minority that able to maintain the narrative, and that's why I came up with my conclusion a long time ago that the media literally exists to crush left-wing movements and amplify fake right-wing protests. What I mean by that? Yes. So I took note very early. Remember when the whole reopen the economy thing was going on and stop the mask thing going on? I was looking at the media coverage of the protest, and I was looking at the polls. And when you look at the polls, like most of the people said they support the lockdown, they support the mask mandate. And then you look at the actual rally, like they were like, there's a big anti-mask rally, there's a big anti-lockdown rally. You look at the rallies, they'd be like, people. Yeah, it's like, bro, 15, 20 people were there. Like there's no support for this shit. But they actually did increase support because once again, in manufacturing consent, it's a very powerful technique. So they actually made, like when the crisis started, like there was a consensus that we should lock down, that we should treat this seriously. But then the media was amplified, the 10%, 15% of the population that will have their demonstrations. While at the same time, it's very interesting that they amplify those small protests. But whenever there's a left wing protest, whenever they're like Amazon,
downplay it.
Yeah, they don't get no show. So once again, people want to call me conspiracy.
Like they never covered Bernie's rallies, even though he was literally like. He was filling up stadiums. I went to one rally in Long Beach, and I was in the overflow. And it's funny because like I was like tweeting out like, oh, I'm at a Bernie rally, and everybody's like, why do you look like you're outside? I'm like, I am outside, and they're like, oh, you couldn't get in. I was like, of course not. like it's like duh, like it's Bernie, you know. Like I couldn't even see him. I could just hear him, but I could like he was like a little dot somewhere in the middle of, and he was at a college, but just at a college, like I couldn't get in.
Yeah, Bottle the Head.
How many people went to see him, and this was early in the primary. Nobody there. We were months away from a single ballot being cast, and it was just like, duh, I'm not able to get in. I'm standing in the overflow, and it was still crowded.
Boot to the head.
The overflow at Bernie's rallies was bigger than anything Biden or Buttigieg ever had.
So boot to the head. He said 80% of Republicans don't believe you lost. The number I saw, there was another poll that came out where they asked American people how many people think he should concede. And there was a large portion that don't believe he lost. But there was only like 12% of them. And that number was trending on Twitter. And it said only 12%. And it was like only 12% actually believe that he shouldn't concede, though. So that is a good point. There's Republicans that believe that the election was fraudulent. But there's actually a very small percent.
I'm not a Republican, and I believe that the election was fraudulent.
Yeah, fair. Exactly. So
the Democrats have proven that they're willing to do anything not to win. They're not willing to do anything to win, because if that were the case, then they would have picked Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
But they're willing to do anything to put their thumb on the scale, just like they did. Like, it's proven that the primary was fraud. Like they flipped ballots.
Yeah.
So that
So yeah, that's a good
percentage
point.
would automatically go to Biden so that he could quote win.
So
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 if
you
they
guys
could
are
figure
both
that
right.
out during the primary, what makes us think they couldn't figure it out for the general?
Exactly, and that's why you're not wrong, boot to the head. Because listen, there's a massive distrust of the election. But my original point was he don't have a lot of people not buying the bullshit in terms of like he should actually not concede. Like most people don't think that. Like even the Republicans don't trust the election. Like yeah, I think we should move on. I think that's the consensus based on once again we never know. 'Cause polling is weird, but based on what I've seen on the ground too, it seems like most people just kind of want to get this over with. To me, I think it's only a very very small percentage of MAGA people. I think most people are just over this shit. Maybe I'm wrong. We see how this how
I would be very surprised. Like honestly, the reason why I keep saying if he wins, like if one person wins or the other, is because even I don't think that it's over yet. Because honestly, like just from what I've seen, I am amazed that Biden was able to pick up more states. Because especially Georgia and Arizona, because I live in California. I went on a walk the other day, and to this day, there are more Trump signs in my neighborhood than anything else. I didn't see a single Biden-Harris sign, but I saw at least 3 Trump signs just going on a small walk through my neighborhood. And I'm in California. So as liberal as my state is, there's more support for Trump out here. That's why I was like, there's no fucking way Biden flips Georgia. And so that's why I haven't called it yet, because we've heard of voter fraud, but we've heard of voter fraud from both sides.
exactly.
So that's why I'm like, you know what? Let's just wait. I'm not saying that I think it's going to go one way or the other. Like most likely Biden did win, because if he was able to flip Georgia and Arizona, he won. But I remember like the counts being super close. That's why I was like, I don't really know which way it's going to go, because the numbers were like 49.6 to 49.2% of like, going one way or the other.
Right.
But one thing I want to talk about is Anarchy said, even though it's not a real coup, it's still very dangerous to democracy to try and undermine a fair election. It hurts voter confidence a lot. Well, maybe the Democrats should have thought about that back in 2016 and in 2020 when they rigged their own elections, and then had a court turn around and say, well, the DNC is a private organization, so they could do it in the back room, and there's nothing you can do about it. So that is what made me leave the Democratic Party.
And
I'll never vote for a Democrat again. Why? Because they cheat, and they prove that they cheat, and they don't give a shit.
So what was the question again? I missed it.
Anarchy said, even though it's not a real coup, it's still very dangerous to democracy to try to undermine a fair election. It hurts voter confidence a lot. Mm-hmm. And then Cloudmine said, we never had a democracy. The facade is just being torn down, which I agree with.
Right.
And then Anarchy said, meh, we have a democracy. It's just a shit ton of fascists that have been trying to change the democracy slowly into a fascist dictatorship.
I mean,
and I would argue
like
that we never had a democracy. We have a republic. We don't have a democracy. We have a republic that is like, the fact that we have the Electoral College tells you we don't have a democracy. There are countries in the world where one vote is one voice. You vote, they add the votes, just like when you were in school and you wanted to vote for class president. You put your ballot in, they add up all the ballots for everybody, and whoever has the most, that's the winner. That's a democracy. We don't have that.
So it don't feel like democracy to me when we have an Electoral College that make it so a white rural voter have about 1.6 times more voting power than I do. So that's where I come from. I mean, my vote never ever counted in terms of presidential election ever. So that don't feel like democracy to me. But I just want my vote to count. I guess that's too much to ask for. But I just saw this. In the news. This just broke. This Associated Press tweeted 26 minutes ago. Not surprising to me. Kyle Rittenhouse, the 17-year-old Illinois charged with killing 2 people during a protest in Wisconsin, has posted a $2 million cash bond and has been released from custody. What's your initial thoughts on that, Jackie?
Who was it?
Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse.
The guy who killed people during a protest?
Yeah. So what the fuck? I'm trying to see who. This is the danger that we had to deal with. No matter, like, this is the point I made. No matter whether Joe Biden or Trump wins, this scourge of white supremacy is going nowhere. I would let screen share, but that's how we broke it last time. I don't know. I gotta figure out why it keep breaking. But pretty much, I'm looking at the article from AP News.
Just send it to me on Twitter, and I'll screen share it.
Yeah, actually, I can post it in the chat here. Let's try that.
Well, Twitter is better because when you post it to me on the chat on Zoom,
yeah, that's cool.
I don't get the notification right away, and
yeah, because if you screen share,
automatically open.
If you screen share, I think it works pretty well. But this is the story. I think this just came out, and people are fucking pissed for good reason. Because this shows the problem that's not gonna go away. Because how did he get that $2 million from?
Wait, shows what problem is not going away? White supremacy? Yep. The only way to wipe white supremacy out of this nation is to scrap the nation and start over. The nation was literally built on the notion of white supremacy. Mm-hmm. How in holy fuck do people think you can reform that shit? It's not going away. And it's just reality. It's part of reality that we live in. It's what the nation was based on.
So I don't understand why black people fight against defund the police as well, knowing that our police system was literally based on a racist system known as the slave patrols. And throughout the course of human history, the way that we police right now is almost unprecedented. And we are literally known for having a broken window style policing where police actually go after black men. Like they actually go to these neighborhoods to try and pick them. So yeah, this is the article here. I see. Thanks for pulling that up. Like I said, I literally just read it, so I don't got the details, so we can kind of go through it live here. I mean, we all know who he is. He killed those people during the protest in Wisconsin where they crossed state lines illegally. Right? How they get away with that? Because it was like, I remember I saw a story where it was like his parent broke laws by having a minor go cross state lines with a firearm or something like that. Wonder how they got out of that. Mm-hmm. Who knows? But anyway, we all know who he is. It said that's his charge he's being faced with intentional homicide, reckless endangerment, and see that's what I was talking about right there. The minor possession of a firearm. See, like how is he gonna get out of that one? Because I want to read the details of that charge. But I remember I read it around the time. They said what him and his mom did was literally technically illegal, even if you take the murder away. So it was like whatever.
What I don't understand how you're confused how he's getting away with it. He's on the police side. Who's going to do anything about it?
Fuck. And then that's the side that Joe Biden's on.
Supporting the police, and the police are the ones who are supposed to arrest you when you do something wrong. According to the police, he didn't do anything wrong. It doesn't matter if he broke a law. And that's the problem with this country. It has always been that way. The laws mean nothing. The only thing that means anything is who's in front of you that's going to do anything about it. If the police are on your side, you didn't break a law. If the police are against you, you broke a law and you go to jail. It doesn't matter if you did anything wrong. It doesn't matter if you broke a law. The law is in the eyes of the beholder, and in this case, the beholder is the police. And as we've seen, that blue wall is impenetrable. You can literally murder someone in her sleep, and you will get away with. You won't even be charged.
I was so pissed off because Kamala Harris had the fucking audacity to speak the name of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, despite the fact that she never ever prosecuted a cop in her entire career, ever. Her and Amy Klobuchar, the two darlings of the Democratic Party, never ever. Not only that, Amy Klobuchar backed up cops routinely. So this is the side they are on. So why do people get mad at me? Why do liberals push back when I say that there's going to be no difference when Joe Biden in charge? Because we literally just laid out the fact that Kyle Rittenhouse is going to get off and he's being supported by a fascist police state. So if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going to support the police, that means aren't they kind of supporters of Kyle Rittenhouse? If you put it that way, like they are complicit with this problem. You have white supremacists planning to kidnap governors, Democratic governors, and the police chief is good friends with them, and he apologizes for his friend who's responsible for domestic terror live on air. And you had constant stories about how police. I remember when I made that thread, where I brought it a little bit earlier, people talking about their police experience. So this is anecdotal, but there's constant stories about this. Where there was a friend who told a story about being sexually assaulted, and they tried to put charges on the guy who did it. And the police came. They talked him back. She didn't know what was going on, and then they let him go. And then the fact turned out that was the nephew of like the police sheriff or some shit like that. It's like I'm like, damn, that's a wild. Like, to be fair, that's Ando's story, but that kind of stuff you hear all the time with the police complicity, and that's the same thing you see with the police complicity come with the terrorist attacks in Michigan, because apparently those people been reported and people put notes on them and gave tips to police about those people, and they didn't give a fuck. They don't do their job, and like you smartly brought up,
they are doing their job though. Their job is to protect the other
yeah,
police.
and just like you smartly brought up, that's why Kyle Rittenhouse they will give. With that said, you know what would be a funny thought experiment that I wish some political group would do? Out of this people, all the crazy right wingers that donated to Kyle Rittenhouse, I want to know how many of those are police or military officials. You know what I mean? Like, there's like a stat that came out that like 15% of the people that donated to Kyle Rittenhouse was police. I would love to see that. I would
be willing to bet that the military isn't as high up on that list as you would think, because when you talk to actual people in the military,
that's a good point.
A lot of them don't agree with this.
That's a good point.
Because a lot of people in the military, a majority of the people in the military who signed up because it was their only option to get out of poverty.
Yeah, that's why
they're not necessarily consigned. They're not on the side of the police. They didn't sign up to be cops. They signed up to be military to get out of a shitty situation.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a point that Left Flanks and Erica do a good job of pointing out. Because
that's why Bernie
that's a good point. I agree with that.
Because if the cops, or not the cops, if the military was, entirely like the cops, then Bernie wouldn't have had the most military supporters. It would have been somebody like Kamala or Biden. Or
they just wanted the student loans paid off.
Or even Buttigieg, Tulsi and Buttigieg were actually in the military, yet the most donations and support from the military during the primary was Bernie.
They wouldn't, and that's a good point. I don't remember who brought that. I wish I did so I can give them credit, but they will never cancel student loans. They'll never make college free because that's how they get people to join the military. The second they do that, military recruitment is going to crash. Like, if you ever actually cancel student loans and you made public college tuition free, damn, that will actually shrink college recruitment so much. And
that's exactly why they don't want to do it, because how the hell are they? This country is run by the military-industrial complex.
The funny thing is, I didn't even think about it like that.
Far more of a say in our day-to-day lives than the president ever does.
100%.
It's just a facade. We believe that the president has something. The president's literally just a figurehead. The Pentagon is running things behind the scenes. Okay, So the way it's run, the reason why our education is so piss poor, the reason why we have such rampant poverty, and the reason why they're not going to do things like give you Medicare or, like give everyone health care or give everyone free college is because you need to incentivize people to join the military. We have moved in the information age. We have moved beyond the ignorant, patriotic, all forgotten country. There are a few people who do sign up for that and believe in that. But the vast majority of people who sign up for the military are poor.
Yep.
If you eradicate poverty, or at the very least ease the burden of poverty, far fewer people. And I hate to say this, but it's true. When I was in high school, when you're in high school, the recruiters start to come around.
Right.
I was 17, 18, and I was getting phone calls. I was a total neolib back then, okay? But it was the 90s.
I hear you.
Forgive me, okay? And I remember I got a phone call one day. I answered my parents said, "No, the phone's for you." I get to the line and I'm like, "Yeah," and it was like, "Oh, hi, I'm so and so, with the military." It was a military recruiter, and I was like, "I'm not poor." That was literally my response. I'm like, "I'm not poor. I'm not going to the military," because it was baked into the cake. That's right. What you do when you're.
And that's why they go after that in those areas, and that's actually a strategy.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, "Don't call me. I don't need money. I can go to college on my own."
Yeah.
And they didn't call me again.
But damn,
people, that was literally as soon as I said that, they were like, "Okay." Never heard from another branch of the military as far as recruitment. They just left me the fuck alone because they were like, "Yeah, you're not gonna do it." Meanwhile, my father was raised poor, and he went into the military, came out of the military, got a job, because that's how it worked. And I know people who were less well off, and the military hounded them constantly. They were all over them.
Wow.
This is by design.
It's very predatory, right? The way they do it. And
yes.
And the point you made earlier was really a good one because I'll send you a video on Twitter if you want to share screen that for us. The military industrial
Yeah.
complex always controlled the office of the presidency. We can do this segment here and we take some questions and call it here. Because my point I always make to people, and the reason why I think it's important to destroy the two-party duopoly, because you can't tackle U.S. imperialism with the two-party system as we have it. And I always want to point to the trends. When George Bush got on, I made the point a few times, but we got a new audience here. When we have George Bush in office, he bombed more people than Bill Clinton. And then Barack Obama ran as a peace candidate, and he did the unthinkable, where he bombed more people than George Bush. And now you had Donald Trump came in, and Trump bombed more people than Obama. So it's a pattern, and we'll see that same pattern when Joe Biden take charge. And now, if you want to play that video, this shows why Biden will not be calling the shots.
Let me get to the beginning here.
It's all good.
And oops. Sorry. Okay, there we go.
I'm not sure. I can't hear it. Is the audio on? Can y'all hear that? Or is that just me?
Could people hear it?
Yeah, they can't hear it. I can't hear it either.
They can't. You can't hear it?
I'm not sure why.
Oh, hold on. Let me make sure the screen sharing. I don't know why my settings changed because I had this set up so that like when I shared, you could hear it was like optimized.
You guys are watching that. You guys can see the caption. Well, we probably get a video playing, but pretty much it's Biden melting down again, and it was actually kind of hard to watch it. But that's why he's not going to actually call the charge because there's no one. The office of the presidency is responsible for so much, and if you think that broken brain, sorry, but his brain is not all the way there.
Dude, he couldn't get through. Okay, so I know people couldn't hear it, but he literally could not get through the 2 sentences he was trying to say.
Let's see if I can. I'm actually gonna just. I'm gonna put it in the chat so they can watch it. But pretty much it was Biden brain melting down again, and if you guys click the link.
Check my settings because somehow all of my stuff changed because I had everything optimized. I had it set up specifically for like screen sharing, and now all of this is messed up. Like I don't know why.
But yeah, so when I see our military-industrial complex, and when I see the direction that the Trump administration took in terms of harshening against Iran, going against Russia, and going against Venezuela, I've been paying attention to the pre-election talk, and it's clear that Joe Biden is going to continue that. And I gave this. People always say Joe Biden going to go back to the Iranian deal, which he might, but he was talking about increasing sanctions on the Iranian people, and they asked him a question on that debate night, because there was a story that was planted by the intelligence community that was loosely sourced, where they said Iran, Russia, and Venezuela have plans to interfere with the election. Very loosely sourced story, as usual with Russiagate. And the question at the debate, what do you think of this story that we just planted and made up with no evidence? And he said Iran. He said specifically, I'm quoting him, not what I made up. I'm quoting. He said Iran will pay. What does that mean? We don't know yet. But once again, I laid out the example earlier how there's always a solid game plan with the executive branch on what they want to do foreign policy wise. Like you don't see dramatic shifts in foreign policy like you would expect based on the rhetoric. Like Barack Obama was just a giant Israel bootlicker just like George Bush was. He continued his war and expanded to 7, just like Donald Trump did in Obama's war. He expanded them. It's the same overall direction. A few minor tweaks, but for the most part, in terms of what they do, it's the same thing. Barack Obama bombed so many people that they literally ran out of bombs. They had to go back to bomb production because he bombed so many people. And then Donald Trump bombed that many people as well. Why they do that? Because they're sponsored by the military-industrial complex. So you can't really expect Joe Biden to do anything different. So when you see the fact that he's not even cognitively there, and you see the war hawks, and you see the fossil fuel executives that they already floating on his cabinet, congratulations. These are the people that are going to be running our country. I played a clip of Kamala Harris during her APAC speech where she sounded no different than a Republican. Where she said, we literally got to continue to get Israel billions of aid. Meanwhile, we can't have monthly relief checks for our people. That's the kind of shit they do. Israel is a country that have Medicare for all, and they pay for college for all their citizens. We can't do that, but we pay them billions of dollars a year. And Kamala Harris gave a speech where she was enthusiastically supporting that, and she said the Democrats should do that without apologies. And she literally backed up Netanyahu's talking points when it came to, we got to make sure that we keep the Palestinian people in control because they are launching these terrorist attacks. You know, the right-wing framing of the Palestinian people with no money or no power going against the giant U.S. military-funded apparatus in Israel. And Dr. Cornel West, once again, wants someone else that people love to quote when he say that we should vote for Joe Biden, but they ignore the fact. He said his criticism of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden is they refuse to call out Netanyahu because Netanyahu is worse than Trump. Worse than Trump. But so Trump is the worst thing ever. But Netanyahu, that is just a racist, probably more racist than Trump, honestly. Like he's a deep bigot, he's a war criminal, a far right fascist. But he's your friend? Like this is the kind of stuff I weigh when I'm like, am I gonna vote for them or am I not gonna vote for them? Oh, they propping up Netanyahu, a psychopath, a racist. They propping up Moody. Like, what? Like, no, they are the same evil. Let's see.
Can you take care of Fire Spirit real quick?
Like ban him or something?
Yep.
I saw he was arguing, but I wasn't really paying attention.
It's not really arguing at this point. It's just trolling.
Oh, there you go. That's
not
ban
really
button?
adding anything to the conversation. There we go. Okay.
How many times? Hopefully I didn't unban him last accident.
Hopefully what?
Is he gone?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's the first time I had to ban somebody.
Yeah, it's just we didn't do that because he was saying things we don't like. I asked you to do that specifically because he was being a troll. He was just saying racist shit just to get attention.
That's because I tweeted out that I'm gonna talk about the Kyle Rittenhouse story, so I probably got one of the MAGA people in there. Because I think I saw he was defending Kyle. I was like, all right, I don't care, but.
Like if you want to have a discourse with us, like you don't have to agree with us 100%. That's perfectly fine. You want to have a discourse with us, you want to say something, like cool, state your case. We'll argue it, but that's not what he was doing. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, they literally had multiple witnesses in the area that said it wasn't self-defense. They engaged, and not self-defense when you engage. You know what I mean? So. Once again, I wasn't there, but I'm gonna listen to the people that was there instead of the right wing propagandists, right? I'd rather believe those people than Charlie Kirk.
His first comment was about the military-industrial complex, saying that bombing is good.
Oh my God, yeah, he not.
That was his very first comment, and then he went to the Kyle Rittenhouse. So yeah, that's why I was like, all right, this dude's just being, basically like everything was. He was amping up everything, trying to get more and more attention. So that's why I figured he's not in good faith.
You know the funny thing is, I'm surprised that the first time that happened, considering all the people. The thing is, most people that hate me like really block me. The one that hate me really bad. But I do get a lot of people that troll. But, so I'm actually surprised that doesn't happen more often. To be honest, so not bad. Get them out of here. Let's see. Is there any more questions? I'm like looking to see if I can find like that Kyle Rittenhouse. That was the breaking story I want to quickly cover. Let's see. Is there anything else here?
So, quick question: what do you like? You're in Missouri, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys doing anything about COVID? Because, as far as I can see in California, our stance is just to ignore it and act like it's not a thing anymore. But
I mean,
looks like it's happening out here.
Yeah, we ran by right wing lunatics here, so I don't expect any. Like Kansas City has been on fire for like the last week and a half. I told my family had our COVID situation. And I don't see this virus slowing down anytime soon. Especially now you have Joe Biden talking about how you don't want to close down the economy or close down schooling. My question is, like, I know that there's even some people on the left that's against lockdowns and that kind of stuff because there are multiple approaches But I think when you look at the map, you see that every state is red. Every state is an uncontrolled spread. I would love to be able to say that we have other solutions other than locking down. But the only way forward I see controlling this virus is literally having a lockdown, paying the payrolls of small businesses, keep them people employed, and literally having UBI and keeping the economy going that way again to get reopened. And Joe Biden and Mitch McConnell is definitely not doing that. They definitely won't do that. So, fuck. Hopefully the vaccine is coming or something. Because other than that, if there's not like a super effective vaccine that everyone can get really fast, I don't see this in like anytime soon. Just because how bad it is in my area.
Who was it? Somebody on Twitter was talking about the vaccine, and she was like, she said something that made sense, but I don't necessarily agree with 100%. Like I don't disagree with it, but I don't 100% agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Pat just tweeted out the exact same thing that you had me show. That very tweet.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find her.
Everyone roasting her for that.
She was talking about the vaccine, and she was saying that she doesn't know any black people who are going to take it because she feels like the vaccine.
Oh Jesus.
She feels like they rushed out. But okay, I want to find her tweet though, because what she said, it made sense, even though I don't agree with it 100%. She said that basically the vaccine is being rushed out. She thinks it's being rushed out to just get people back to work, and that and she doesn't think that it's safe.
I mean,
and they won't care if it's safe. They just want to get people back to work and to stop thinking about the vaccine.
Capitalists are so dirty. Like, is that unbelievable?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it makes, I don't
like
agree
our country.
With her 100%.
Yeah, but I say it's a gray. It shades of gray, man. Obviously, I don't agree with her 100%, but our ruling class is so beyond the pale. It's like, I wouldn't put it past them, bro. I swear I'm not like some sort of anti-vaxxer or something like that, but our government is so corrupt. Like, I wouldn't put anything past them. And the thing is, I'm not gonna be like anti-vaxxer or that, but I'll definitely not be the first one jumping in line. That was someone in the comments said as well. I definitely can't see. I don't see myself being like the first one. I don't know, man. Like, our government is there's so many liars, but that's a good point that she brought up. Like, they do want people to get back to work.
I just found her tweet. Let me read it out real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Now my internet decided. As soon as I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just say it. Now my internet's like, nope, we're not going to let you.
What do you guys think in the chat? What do you guys think about that? Because I push back against anti-vaxxers, but when it comes to this particular situation, the government do have a... Go ahead.
Her tweet is, FYI, it's from Real Kayla James. She said, FYI, the plan is to rush a half-assed Rona drug to market and then shrug when people keep dying, then blame it on anti-vaxxers. I don't know any black people who are planning on taking that mess.
Dude, I can see them planning some shit like that. Because we talking about billions and billions of dollars on the line, right?
And then Tariq responded, requiring vaccine be stored at such a low temp of negative 70 degrees Celsius, which is like negative 94 degrees Fahrenheit, that existing shipping and health infrastructure doesn't have. It's already setting it up for failure. Excuses locked and ready for narrative.
That's crazy. Merrick Garland for Joe Biden's pick for Attorney General. Mm-hmm. So this centrist. No, I just saw that. Now. Another centrist pick.
You know what? I am starting to have lost faith in Fauci because there are two reasons why. Who's this? Somebody just jump back in?
So if I see Malcolm X, I gotta click.
There are many whites who are trying to solve the problem. But you never.
Oh, hi.
Wait, someone.
So the reason why I'm skeptical is because wait, sorry, so I'm talking and I'm reading and my brain is not doing all of it well.
Yeah.
So Cloud9 said, I love vaccine, but pushing one out this quick is fucking dangerous and I won't be taking it. True. Yes.
So like that's why I want to hear from people that like she like someone she actually knows what's going on though, right? Like in terms of how you're supposed to time the vaccine, because those are the kind of people I would love to hear from, like the people that will actually have, not like people that just outright deny the science behind it, but like the people that actually know like how vaccines are usually released, and so they can criticize it in terms of a professional approach. You know what I mean? So people are like, well,
I do, and that's why I'm skeptical, because I'm one of those people. Like whenever, like when I told you, you know, to make sure your family takes vitamin C and vitamin D, that's not woo. I'm telling you that because I actually read scientific studies coming out of China, Italy, and even New York, where they, in treatment, or actually not even just in treatment, but like they ran meta analysis, and they realized that the key factor in whether people had it the worst or were asymptomatic was vitamin D. People who had very low amounts of vitamin D tended to get sick and die and had the worst outcomes. People who had plenty of vitamin D tended to be either asymptomatic or just like it was as if it was like a cold, which would explain why Trump, and if you listen to the press, they'll tell you. The news actually told you. Remember when they were telling you Trump's regime? They were like, yeah, he's taking vitamin D and vitamin C. They just kind of went past it, and then they were like, remdesivir and all the other stuff, but they were just like, yeah, they're giving him vitamin D and vitamin C. Because they know the scientists have. I
mean, that makes sense on a nutrition value as well. Because like I always eat healthy, and that probably like I thought I had COVID. I don't know for sure, but I remember I had some issues. I didn't know what it really was back then, but I think I was probably one of the first people that got it. I don't know. Maybe I'm bullshitting, but I believe it.
If you take vitamin D, you could have had it and been asymptomatic, and that that's.
I might have it last week. Who knows? But I ain't feel anything. Clouded Mind said. Yeah, Clouded Mind said vaccine trials typically last 2-3 years. Push one out within 3 to 4 months. Well, I lost my play in the chat. But pretty much, most of the people in the chat are agreeing with me.
Exactly that's exactly my point. So, like I was saying, this whole time I've been actually reading the abstracts of the scientific studies. They're available online. Yeah, you can see them.
Clouded Mind said pushing one out within 3 to 4 months, like they did. Fuck no. I don't know. I lost my place on camera, but yeah, that's
exactly.
That's the kind of skepticism I want to hear. I want to hear it coming from a point of facts, and I'll definitely be interested because I'm like, man, I don't know how making a vaccine is, but I feel like that is kind of fast for them to say by next year. Well, but once again, I come from a place of not knowing.
Right before that came out, okay, so because I remember, like I said, this whole time I've been reading scientific literature, right? And even on Twitter, I follow scientists because I don't want to hear the clickbaity headlines from CNN and MSNBC and Fox News. I want to hear from scientists. What do you guys think is going on with this with the actual trials and what's going on? And like that's how I knew that people were like, oh, anybody who has COVID or anybody who dies is being listed as a COVID death. Well, yes, because the reason why is because COVID is attacking your organs so that it's killing you. Like, yeah, you may have died from, you may have had like cirrhosis of the liver. When COVID attacks your liver can't handle it and you die. If you hadn't gotten COVID and it hadn't attacked your liver, eventually you would have died of cirrhosis of the liver, but not today. So It was COVID that killed you. That's why those numbers, they're not inflated, it's accurate, but the news doesn't cover that. That's why there are people that are conspiracy theorists that are sitting there saying, oh, they're trumping up the numbers. No, they're actually hiding the numbers.
Very interesting.
So because I actually follow that, I had just said that day, like the day that they announced that they had a vaccine, I was like, a vaccine's not coming for at least another year because it takes 2 years. It takes at least 18 months for a vaccine, just the way the trials work. Because as soon as they figure out, okay, we think this is the thing, then you have to go through the scientific process of like, you have to step it up. You can't just start on humans. You have to start on rats. Then when that looks positive, you can start on primates. When that's positive, now you can start human trials. And you have to go through multiple iterations of this. It takes time. It takes at least 18 months for it to be a viable vaccine. Excuse me. So for them to say it'll be ready in 3-4 months, that's a red flag.
Also, too, the Trump the Trump administration, they gave like a lot of federal dollars to find these vaccines to two of these companies. And so on CNN, CNN was even forced to thank the president for, he has this thing called Project Warp Speed or whatever, where he tries to give money to these companies. And what's scary is that how they created a vaccine so fast. And what they're doing too is they're socializing their losses and privatizing their gains. And now they're trying to work with the Biden camp, so if Biden gets in office, they can ramp up that vaccine, sell it for top value price, and make off like fat cats. That's why the stock market's going up.
I'll just send you this. I just saw that we can end it on this story here. I just saw this just now. How ridiculous is this, man? Like, cause if you look at the response that individual governors had to COVID. There was probably no one who had a worse response to Andrew Cuomo. Mr. I'm going to cut Medicaid in the middle of a pandemic. Mr. I want to literally ease restriction on nursery homes that allowed a massive COVID outbreak that caused countless lives. And this is how they're going to clean up Kamala Harris' reputation. And this is the point that RJ brought up earlier this week, and how he terrified on, even though Kamala Harris is massively unpopular now, what happens when the media builds her up as a phenom superstar and like the next Barack Obama? Like, what they do with that media treatment, and how that may lead to her being hard to be in 2024. And I'll just send you this link, Jackie, where apparently I don't follow anything with Emmy related, but it said Governor Andrew Cuomo in New York will receive the International Emmy Founders Award in recognition of his leadership during the COVID-19 pandemic. You mean the one he couldn't control that ravaged through New York?
Right.
Where he tried to cut Medicaid in this pandemic? Where he literally was... He had campaign donations. Yeah, he did. And he had campaign contributions from nursing home operatives. So he eased the restrictions on them. I'll make sure I get this right. And taking patients in nursing homes, because that allowed them to get more money. So he eased the restrictions on that, despite COVID going on. The result of that is that COVID spread massively in these nursing homes that killed countless people. Like he is literally one, and there's like constant stories of his incompetence throughout the course of the COVID crisis, and that's why New York was one of the hardest hit. But he getting a Emmy Founders Award for his leadership. And people are not having it. People are freaking pissed about this too. Think like the ratio on that's pretty intense. In his masterful use of TV to inform and calm people, he was lying to people. He was doing just what Trump did. He had press conferences where he came out and he pretended that he was doing way better than he was doing. And then CNN brought him on and they had him interviewed by his own brother, massive conflict of interest and massively corrupt. They ran defense for them throughout the course of the COVID crisis, despite that New York got crushed, and he didn't do anything to help New York, and he was horrible in managing this crisis. But he about to get an Emmy Award for it. So good luck trying to drag Kamala and Joe Biden when they got this massive media machine behind them, to the point where Barack Obama this year was still chosen as the world's most admired man, despite his horrific record that we go over constantly. And this is why I said corporate media is our number one enemy. And we're going to have a hard time winning electoral politics when they can shine a turd like Andrew Cuomo, one of the most corrupt governors in this country. Got an Emmy Award for his leadership during the COVID crisis. Like, I saw this, I'm like, bro, my blood is boiling. So I had to talk about that. What do you guys think? Do you guys think Andrew Cuomo deserved this? I'm going to give you guys a softball.
This is neoliberal bullshit. It's exactly what I was talking about before, where the media manufactures consent.
Yeah.
I want to show something really quick that someone sent in the chat.
Yeah, any more stories that you guys want to share? That's cool before we sign off.
There's 5 charts that tell the story of vaccines today. Over 100 studies are underway to find a vaccine for COVID-19. And I don't know if I can move this. Can I move it? Yeah. Okay, there we go. Going down here, The race is on to find a COVID-19 vaccine. So they even tell you, like, it started in China, right? The virus started in China, but also the hunt for a vaccine.
Yeah.
So across the world, more than 100 COVID-19 vaccines are currently being developed, with one European pharmaceutical company predicting it could have one ready to go into production globally as early as September. So what's the date on this article? June 2020. Okay. In China, where the outbreak was first reported, 5 vaccines are already being tested on humans, and a government body says at least one could be ready by the end of this year. But it could still take a long time. 5 stages of vaccine development. A vaccine usually takes more than 10 years to develop.
10 years?
Cost up to $500 billion.
Wow.
Stage 1, discovery research, 2 to 5 years, up to 100 potential vaccines. Stage 2, preclinical, 2 years, 20 potential vaccines. Stage 3, clinical development, phase 1, is it safe? 1 to 2 years, 10 potential vaccines. Phase 2, does it activate an immune response? 2 to 3 years, 5 potential vaccines. Phase 3, does it protect against the disease? 2 to 4 years, 1 potential vaccine. 4, regulatory review and approval, 1 to 2 years, 1 vaccine. Manufacturing and delivery. Manufacturing vaccines requires specialist facilities that are highly regulated and expensive to develop. It usually starts following phase 2 clinical trials to develop the thousands of doses needed for phase 3 trials. Equals 10 years and costs $500 million. Now, granted, this has been sped up because it's a pandemic, so everybody in the world is trying to find this vaccine. But, and look at this. The most widespread vaccines around the world. Share of 1-year-olds globally who received full set of immunizations, and it shows, tuberculosis down to rotavirus. So, here's the thing. How is it that every time I was reading an article about vaccines, I was getting similar numbers to this, of them saying, it's going to be at least 2 years, right? Okay, every scientist that I was reading was still saying it's at least 18 months away. Okay, that's what scientists were saying at the beginning of the outbreak. They were saying it now. They haven't, scientists have not changed, actual scientists have not changed their jargon on this. They're saying the same thing. So then I'm pretty surprised when that day my cousin was like, yeah, there's a vaccine. And I'm like, no, there's not, because remember, I'm reading scientific articles. And the scientists haven't changed their rhetoric at all. They're like, no, we're not any closer. But meanwhile, here's a pharmaceutical company that's like, yeah, we've got one. And I'm like, wait, what? So that, right there, that's a red flag. How do you have one when the scientists are still saying we don't have one?
Well, the scientists have to be realists. That's their job. The politicians that tell us there's going to be a vaccine, it's almost like the lockdown, for instance. They couldn't tell us, the politicians, we have to be locked down for a year. We have to use moderation. They would tell us, no, we have to take 2 weeks. Okay, we need another 2 weeks. Actually, we need another month. They tell you this to try to nuclearize any opposition or any uprising that may happen. So that's why they keep saying all these optimism quotes of, we're going to have one later at the end of the year. We're going to have one at the beginning of January. We're going to have one in February, whatever. It's just try to get rid of panic. But I do agree with what you're saying. I think it's ridiculous how so-called Biden and Trump listen to the scientists. They're not even listening to the scientists. It's going to be rushed. No one wants to take this. And the main people who are forced to take these type of vaccines are people with marginalized communities, especially Black and brown people. I mean, we have a history of using, basically as guinea pigs.
Man, that's super scary.
My cousin was asking me that. She was like, can we be forced to take the vaccine? And I was like, well, legally, they can't force you to take it. But what can happen is your job can say you can't come to work unless you have that vaccine. Your schools can say your children can't come to school until they get that vaccine. Your doctors can say you can't do an in-person visit until you get the vaccine. So basically, society can shut you out. Yeah. You can't technically be forced, but society can say you're going to take it or else. And honestly, my problem is with Fauci, because I honestly think that we would be so much better off. We could be New Zealand right now, where New Zealand was chilling. They had essentially eradicated the disease on their land. All we had to do
Hey, Jackie, they was asking for links. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but one person asked for links for that, which I would like to have too. I would love to read through that eventually if you have it.
It's already. I actually got it from the chat.
Oh, the chat. Okay.
It's, Dragon Meows posted it.
Hey, yeah, Dragon Meows. Can you post that again? I would love to. I need to save that so I can read through it my own one day, too. But go ahead. I just want to let you know that.
Yeah. So my problem is with Fauci because Fauci is now saying we don't need to lock down again. Really? Because our numbers are the worst we've ever had them since the outbreak began. Our numbers are worse than they were when we locked down the first time when he was coming on the news saying we have to lock down.
Yeah.
He was the one advocating for lockdown. Also, he originally said we don't have to wear masks. Masks have not been proven effective when he knew he was lying. It was proven effective.
Yeah,
that's why people in the medical industry wear masks.
Yep.
He knew that. The reason why he didn't say it was because he thought the American public is a bunch of idiots. Look what they did with the toilet paper. If we tell them to wear a mask, they're going to buy out all the masks, and there won't be any left for
and he hurt
the
workers. And what he did
like,
by
nurses.
doing that, he caused so much damage by lying like that. Because now right-wingers who are COVID deniers, they point to that lie, and they say, oh, well, Fauci lied on this, so we can't trust him on anything he said, even if he said something good. So that's why I never liked to do, because when he did that, he literally opened the floodgates for COVID-19 denialism. But I'd be like, well, we can't. Fauci said we should lock down, but he also said masks didn't help. He lied about that, so how am I gonna trust him? Dude, that was a massive mistake, and that had a lot of negative consequences, and that's why that's why I hate Fauci, and the liberals made a hero out of that dude, and I agree with what you saying. He 100% could have did a better job, and him lying about the mask mandate early on, that was a big red flag on that. But with that said, we're about we're well over an hour and a half in. Thanks guys for watching. We'll call it for now. As you guys see throughout this week, I'm streaming much more often because I have my setup here. So I appreciate you guys follow and checking me out every day, 3 p.m. Eastern time. That's usually the round time I stream. On Friday I push it back to 4 p.m. Eastern. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for watching this. Anything you guys want to end on? Anything you guys want to plug, Jackie, RJ?
No, I'm good.
Cool. Thanks for watching, guys.